Hello, everybody. Welcome to this LinkedIn Live event on the promise of playful parenting, which is also being made available through YouTube. The UNICEF Regional Office for East Asia and Pacific is hosting this event as part of this month's Playful Parenting Month campaign, which aims to support parents and caregivers to bring more play into parenting. One may ask, why dedicate a whole month to playful parenting? And the answer is, and as we'll see throughout this webinar, that play has profound positive impacts on children's upbringing. And there's a lot more that we can all do to support playful parenting. My name is Roland Kupka, and I work as a nutrition advisor with UNICEF in the Regional Office for East Asia and Pacific in Bangkok. In that function, I work with UNICEF colleagues who are spread across 14 country offices in the region to help children grow and develop to their full potential. I'm also a father of 8-year-old twins. I have a daughter called Zola and a son called Sebastian. And today I will be serving as the host for this event. I'm so glad to be joined by two of my UNICEF colleagues, Faizah and Trevor, and who are also fellow parents in today's events. Faizah, welcome to this panel, and please tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Thanks, Roland. Hi, everyone. My name is Faizah. I'm the regional planning specialist. I worked in the planning team, and we support countries in their country development planning as well as in monitoring. So, in my family situation, so I'm a working mother, and I have a daughter, only one. She's 9 years old. Her name is Lily, and she goes to school here, to the French school here, and she's a single child, so we don't have any other siblings, so not like Roland with twins. She's a solo child, and myself and my husband are both working. I'm office based while my husband is home based. So that's our family situation. And let me pass over to Trevor.
Trevor?
Oh, okay. Hi, thanks, Roland, and thanks for hosting this event. I think it's really, really important, and I hope people get a lot out of this. Hi, everyone. I'm Trevor. I'm the Regional Emergency Advisor for UNICEF in the East Asia and Pacific region. And what that means is that I help UNICEF respond in some of the more complex environments in the region. I have 3 kids and a fourth on the way. Their names are Chase, Chance, Chelsea, and then the fourth one on the way, her name's going to be Charlie. So don't ask me why we went with CH. It's just one of those things that we decided to keep a trend on. My oldest is 15, almost 16, and they got cascade down to the newborn who will be with us in about 2 months. Thanks.
Congratulations, Trevor. Now, as UNICEF staff members, we're very fortunate. We've gotten to learn about the evidence on the impact of play in nurturing child development. And I'd really like to share a little bit what we've been able to learn. And to sum it up, one could say that play really does wonders. It helps children acquire problem-solving skills. Through play, children learn to tackle challenges, adapt to new situations, and find creative solutions. And engaging in play, especially things like pretend play and social interactions, helps children expand their vocabulary, improve their learning skill, their language skills. Play also enhances what experts call executive function. And those are skills like working memory, self-control, and cognitive flexibility. Play also stimulates growth of neurons in the brain. And all of us would agree, I guess, that imaginative play very much stimulates creativity as well. And through our work, we are so fortunate to be able to work with decision makers from governments and the private sector to find better ways so that parents and caretakers can support families in the areas of nutrition, health, child development, and other areas. But we're not just UNICEF staff. We're also parents, and we also would like to share some personal stories with you. And as you'll hear, we're sometimes struggling in our parenting. We are sometimes struggling to find enough opportunities to spend time with our children because of time constraints or digital distractions or other reasons. And I'd actually like to start the discussion with one of those challenges, and actually with these digital distractions, and how we try to manage screen time with our little ones when smartphones and tablets are so present in our lives, and how we can then find the right balance between the digital and the physical worlds, if you will. So Faiza, I can imagine you with your daughter, that this is a challenge also in your life. Would you be able to share a little bit how screen time, screen-based playtime features in your household, and what your concerns are as a parent when it comes to that?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Roland. So as you know that I have only one daughter, so it's one child is quite challenging in itself, right? Because having no siblings, she's very dependent on us parents, and then for entertainment on screen and playtime. So those are her sources of entertainment. And of course, as a parent, what I do worry constantly is how my daughter's personality will take shape as you know, as she grows up. Nine years, I mean, time really flies, and these are the formative years when your personality is taking shape. So one of the challenges I find having being two working parents is that we are so busy all the time, and then playtime is limited because of our busy lives. And it's often a time when I come home from work at the end of the day. It's also the time that she comes home from school, right? So she'll be back in school, and I'll be back from work about 5, 6. But that's the time that she wants to play. But that's also the time when I'm the most tired at the end of the day. So it's very easy to resist and say, no, no, I'm too tired. I don't want to play. I've got to cook, or other things, random things. But it's actually very important to take consciousness that playtime is precious, and that even if we're tired, um, we have to be mindful, like it's actually an important moment to connect. Yeah, so my fears of her exposure to screen time is the influence of what goes into her personality. That's one of my always constant concern, because I'm not there all the time as I work. And as she grows older, she'll be exposed to more screen time, so she should be the one filtering herself in terms of what she should be watching or exposed to. Yeah, so that's one of my challenge of fears, like the
Mhm.
yeah exposure. Yeah.
And Faiza, are there specific actions you undertake to try to regulate her screen time?
hmm So one of the things that came up, my experience ever since we moved to Thailand, which was about 2.5 years ago, and she's been watching. So prior to moving, she has always had a little bit of TV time coming back from work. So it's just her way of kind of tuning out of the school mode and then into home mode. I think that's the in between period. So that's been a habit. So that's always a little bit of TV time I would allow for that. But since moving here, I think she switched off from programs that were age appropriate to something that is a bit too much older for her. So she's starting to watch like teenage type of animation series, which I find that has kind of changed her. And there's a little bit of too much, because I saw the switch in her personality. And many of these preteen or teenage type of animated series are very focused on looking good, very fashionable, um, very high makeup, very you know very much into fashion, very self-concerned, self attitude. And she adopted this prima donna personality almost, I think, from all the things that she's been watching. So I got a little bit concerned, because she was like thinking, I am the center of the universe. the way she walks, the way she talks.
Mm,
So everyone has to follow suit because she's picking all of this up from TV. So
mm,
I saw that, okay, this is not a great situation. So I needed to take action. I need to, as you said, like regulate that space. So I started to pay attention to what she's been watching. I sit next to her literally and see, and I asked her, like, why are you interested in all of this? Like, what's it telling you? It is not telling you any interesting material. You're not learning anything. But in fact, what she's into is the fashion scene of it, right?
mm,
And so that was what drawn her. And then I looked around. From this, it's a streaming channel. I looked around and I saw, like, the bulk of the programs are all like that. No content on
mm,
education. It's just lots of fashion, lots of, like, relationship, like boy meets girl kind of situation. So I was, okay, is this not ready for her age, right? This is just not appropriate. So
mm,
what I decided to do was that of course, she was very unhappy. I stopped our subscription to that particular channel, and we switched to another channel which was more age appropriate for her. So
mm,
as a way, I knew that um any program she watches on the channel is a bit better. So it's being more control, more finesse in terms of the content, and I felt a little bit safer. And then I took another step further, because I know that my daughter, the moment we switch off the TV, she goes into an imaginary play mode. So as I watch some of this with her, so that I'm aware of the characters within this animated series.
mm,
And then I know that the playtime that we get into, that she'll come, Mama, play with me. Um, you be this character, I'll be this character, and this is what we're gonna do. So I just play along. I mean, tired or not, I'll just play
mm,
along, because I think that even if it's a short time, I think she needed that moment. Where she's transitioned from the TV time into play mode. So that's the
mm.
moment I feel that I get into it. So I do that. I play with her. She loves spy games. So we pretend to be spies on underground missions and
Okay.
whatnot. So we do that. We get costumes, and we have spots around the apartment, and we try to reenact some scenes of our own. We make our own stories. And that's how I play with her. And I find that playing and just making time with her has actually opened up our relationship. Like, she starts to tell me stuff, and that I appreciate. She starts to confide
Mm,
things, because there are moments afterwards when it's closer to bedtime. She'll tell me stuff what happened in school, because otherwise it's very hard to connect. Like, I'm
right.
sure you go through this when you ask your parents, so how was school today? Fine. Anything interesting? Nothing. So I
Covers
want
on
to get
familiar.
out of that. Yeah.
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 Mm,
So I find that the more you play, the more they
mm,
have, like, things to share with you. So it's the
very good.
kind of
Okay.
the after effects, and it's a beautiful after effect. So
Right.
I appreciated that. So I think that playing with her, controlling what she's
Mm,
watching, taking an interest, has helped us in dealing with this. And then we also opted, like, it's a new thing that we started doing, which I'm sure many families do, is having movie nights together. So the screen,
mm,
so instead of having the screen, like three multiple screen, my husband has a screen, which is his phone, I have my laptop, and she has the
sure.
TV. We'll just have a common screen time, one single screen, but family time. So we decided
Right.
to do, like, Friday nights will be movie nights, and we'll pick on something that we all want to watch together, and just share that one screen and to be there. She is very important for
Right.
her,
Very
for all
good.
of us to be there, because I tend to not pay attention to anything beyond 15 minutes, but she'll make sure that I'm going to be there throughout. So,
Very good.
so
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
that's
No,
that's
thanks for that,
how
Faisal.
how we
That's
manage our screen
No,
time.
that's really helpful. I mean, I was reading before this webinar that children in many countries in Southeast Asia spend 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours in front of screens, even though the recommended amount is only about 1 or 2 hours for children.
Mm,
So I think it's a real issue. I think in COVID we've all seen though what also the benefits of the digital approaches can be, how online learning can be beneficial, but I guess, yeah, many of us are struggling with how to find the right balance. And it's the same in my family, where I think we've had to really sit down with our children and make a plan, to see how much time they should spend, what they're allowed to watch, also use restrict applications they can use. And I think for us, the hardest part is to not set a bad example, right? For us not
Mm-hmm.
to, my wife and I, to be glued to our screens while telling our kids they can't do this. So I think it's definitely a struggle that we all have.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah, thanks for
completely agree.
sharing that,
Yeah.
Faizah.
And then
Um,
just before we wrap up on that, I just came across recently a very useful material on one of UNICEF resource page on how to manage screen time. And as I go through this material, so there's a little tip that which can come across on in the chat box. 3 ways on how you can help manage your teen screen
okay.
time. I found, like, I can really relate to that. I mean, and it's important because as they grow older, there's just going to
Hmm.
be more screen time, right? So let's make this a natural process, and do check it out because I found that to be useful for me.
Right, very good. Okay,
Hmm.
so Trevor, I'd like to turn to you now as my fellow father on the panel. And I guess we would both agree that fathers and male caregivers have a really important role in parenting. However, what we see is that in many countries or cultures, men's involvement in child rearing is still somewhat limited. I think we both see also often, perhaps even in our own households, how easy it can be to introduce and perhaps reinforce gender stereotypes in child play, in child rearing. Trevor, for you as a father, how do you go about this? How do you go about play with your children? And specifically, is there anything you specifically do to foster an inclusive and stereotype-free play environment for your children?
I think this really hit home for me when my first daughter was born, Chelsea. And there was something that just came over me. And I think it was, I mean, a big part of this was the fact that I work for UNICEF, and we do, as an organization, try to make sure that we are as inclusive and stereotype free as possible. And when Chelsea was born, it really hit me that I needed to make her aware all the time that she could do anything that she wanted to. And because I think that's where a lot of the stereotypes come from, is that you are, if whether you're a boy or a girl, you're bound by these certain stereotypes. And I wanted just to smash those with Chelsea. And so we just, she does Thai boxing, she does Brazilian jiu-jitsu, but she also does ballet and she does swimming. She does have some dolls. Very small amount, a part of that is part of her personality, and she draws, and she's got this artistic side. And I knew that I was having some success when I saw that she had all of those things happening in her life. So that was the effort. And it was always like, what do you want to do, Chelsea? Have you thought about this? Do you want to try this? And she started to really grow into this person who had this approach that she wants to try as many things as possible, right? And then through that process, she's become her own person, where it doesn't matter if it's dolls now or if it's a quote unquote boys thing. She's deciding to do that stuff. So I think that I've had some success in that area, right? But I also had to make sure that I confronted my own stereotypes, and my wife had to confront her stereotypes as well, right? And so it was a bit of a struggle, getting pink clothing for Chelsea, right? We had to really struggle against that. And getting to the point where she's old enough now where she chooses her own clothes. It's this really wonderful combination of pink clothes and blue clothes, if you will, right? Just to sort of simplify it like that. And then she doesn't see her brothers very often, but when she does, and when we're together, right? It's not like me and her brothers go off and do some things and then me and her go off and do things. When we're together, we go to the park together. We do the same thing together. We build that. It doesn't matter that Chase is 15, 16 years old. Chance is, 12, 13 years old. Chelsea's 8, 9 years old. We do things together, because that's also quickly how you can start to delineate, separate kids. So being inclusive means that they come together, they play together, and they do the same things together. We play frisbee, we're riding bikes, we're rollerblading. We do tend to stay outside more, and that's for me really important, because I have come to discover that having access to nature can be something simple on the sidewalk, seeing flowers and trees, but having that outdoor element has been really critical, especially for that inclusive part, because I've found that when you're outside, that inclusivity doesn't matter if you have male or female children or what you have. When you're outside, that inclusivity becomes a lot easier as well. When
Mm,
you're indoors, and so I'm a big proponent also getting outside, having a picnic or walking, jogging, running, talking, running,
right.
and laughing and teasing each other and making fun of each other. And because I think that just builds such a character in people. And you can only do that. That strength only really comes out when they're all together. That's what I
Nice.
think of that, Roland.
No, thanks for sharing that, Trevor. And it does make me think of one experience with my kids where we have this habit of going out on weekends to play football together, and it's really our, in a way, time to bond and laugh and tease, as you were saying sometimes, and imagine. And it's so great, yeah, to play with Zola, my daughter, with Sebastian together to see what Zola can do on the pitch. That she's really as strong and capable as any boy, and that Sebastian also learns how to work in a team and respect and so on. It's also sparked some really good conversations in our household. We're currently watching, all of us, a lot of the football that is on the European Football Championship, and we all have teams in a fantasy league together, in which I'm actually last in. My kids are beating me very easily. So I think, yeah, our engagement around football has been such a great way to connect, laugh, and in a way, yeah, grow together. So I'm very fortunate about that.
Nice.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, thanks for that, Trevor. Faida, I'd like to now go back to you and talk a little bit about your work role as well. As you said at the beginning, you're a planning expert, which means that at UNICEF you work with government colleagues to design and monitor programs. And I guess it's fair to say, while parents generally want the best for their children, there are also some real barriers that parents face, and therefore we need to see what help we can get from governments, from policymakers, to lower those barriers and make parenting, and for that matter, playing, easier. Now, Faiza, based on your experience in working as a planning expert at UNICEF, what do you feel like policymakers can do to make parenting and playing easier?
I, Roland, being a parent is an extremely difficult job. And of course, we all have busy careers, but I think at the bottom, at the end of the day, we all think of our family, and that's really central to us, and it's really important for us, right? So, um, having to balance both work and being a parent really contributes to our own mental sanity. And I find that having the right work environment keeps us to be able to balance that work and responsibilities, gives us that mental sanity, because parenting is already so difficult. So some of the aspects that UNICEF has been promoting, especially when we are developing new country programs with many of our offices, is to rethink the potential of working with parents, and the value that they bring to the quality of life of children and well-being of children. If you look at it, oftentimes when we design new programs and then we are unpacking issues of children happening in countries, and we're looking, why is this happening, what's happening at the parent level, what's happening at the community level, how is this contributing to social norms that are continuing to reinforce and prevent us in achieving some of the child rights, very important issues, right? So the parents, being the duty bearers, are the closest to the child, and there's so much we can do to help parents experience a better parenting, because better parenting leads to better childhood for children, and who will move on to maximizing their potential as they grow into adolescents and adults. So one of the things that UNICEF has been working on is to promote family friendly environments, and this is something that we do with the private sector. So uh, there are four angles or four sets of policies that policymakers can really contribute to helping making parenting an easier experience. So one is on parental leave. So moving from maternal leave, which used to be just focused on mothers, but we also, both sets of parents. They both have different roles. So that's also recognizing the importance of fathers in caring for their children, particularly newborn children. So paid parental leave for parents, both in formal and informal economies. So, in up to present, often we would have this parental leave in the formal economies, but we know very well in our region informal economies are significant, and it's very common for many parents to be engaged in the informal economies. So they need that level of protection as well. They need that time off as well to be with their families when the situation calls. Second is to support breastfeeding. So not just in providing in infrastructure, but really encouraging this practice, and also allowing for time off for female colleagues to be able to not have any issues if they need to breastfeed at the workplace, and time is, what if you're in the middle of a meeting, so how do you be more compassionate to other colleagues who are uh, within the breastfeeding phase, and just to encourage this is a practice that is healthy for the child and also important for the mother to continue even though she has started work. Next is supporting childcare. So childcare, we know, oh, this is so important for working parents, because what do you do with your children when both parents are working? And this is also often why some households have decided not to have two working parents, but just one, because one has to remain and be the active parent at home. So if both parents are working, having childcare that is affordable, that's accessible, and of good quality are important criteria so that parents can remain in their professional lives and also be reassured that their children are taken care of during those moments, during those times. And lastly is the provision of child benefits, or universal child benefits. This is another important aspect, and this touches really a lot for those many of those vulnerable families, where this small assistance actually make a lot of difference, and it enables them to decide and dedicate resources to priorities that they don't have to make sacrifices for. So those are the four sets of policies that we promote at UNICEF, and to encourage policymakers to help develop formal policies that are family friendly, that encourages, make it easier for parents, and make the whole experience at home
Mm.
and easier and a more pleasant and less stressful for parents, and then more fun for children, and yeah, so
Yeah.
those are the points.
Okay, no, thank you, Faisal. And I really also like this last point on providing specific support to the most vulnerable, the poorest. I was just reading a statistic that in low and middle income settings where we work, when we look at our survey data, we find that among the poorest children, half of them don't have any access to toys, be it homemade or shop bought toys, and which really shows the disparities, yeah, that we are up against. Oftentimes, those disparities are very much further entrenched through emergencies, and that's actually something I'd like to ask you, Trevor. I mean, you have spent most of your professional life working in emergency-affected countries. We know that conflicts and disasters are very much on the rise globally. I was reading that some 460 million children worldwide are currently living in conflict zones. These numbers are much higher than they were in previous years. And that we also see challenges such as climate change becoming more and more severe and making lives even more difficult for many children and families, including those living in East Asia and Pacific. Now, it may not be apparent to everybody, Trevor, but it does seem that play has actually a very important role in emergency situations with big benefits for children and adults. Could you share a little bit what the evidence on this is, and what perhaps your personal experiences have been with regard to using play as an approach in emergency situations?
Yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, I mean, I can't overstate enough the importance of allowing children that right or that ability to play and to get back to that sense of normalcy that comes from play. And UNICEF and other organizations, we have two main sort of platforms for that. We call them child-friendly spaces, and oftentimes learning spaces as well, temporary learning spaces. So in the midst of a crisis, whether it's conflict related or man-made or non-man-made related, like we see in typhoons or earthquakes or what have you, we do have child-friendly spaces and temporary learning spaces as the main avenue that we bring children and even families together to, in those spaces, for those brief moments, they can return to that sense that things will be okay. And I'm always reminded, a few years ago, I don't really like talking about the specific countries I've worked in because I think it's somewhat irrelevant. But I remember one place I was working early on in my career with UNICEF. A little boy had lost literally everything that he loved. So we're talking parents, siblings, everybody. And I remember he saw me, and we'd never met before. And what he saw, though, is this space where other kids were playing. And he saw me and he grabbed my hand and he dragged me over to this space where the other kids were playing. And we got to the entrance of this space, and he went in there. And for those moments, he was a little kid again. He was able to live what all kids should be able to live, which is that sense of safety and normalcy, right? And so the reason I say you can't overstate enough the impact of play is because you have to think about, unless you address it early on with these kids, the impact of those traumatic events will be with them for a long, long time. And so this is why UNICEF, in the work that we do, we set up these spaces for kids to go and play, and everything's there, whether it's footballs and building blocks and jump ropes, all the stuff that you would want to see. And then we try to, with our development side, our non-emergency programs, we try to build in that transition, if you will, so that sense of play continues on, right? And so in these crisis events, having that ability early on to have that sense of normalcy with those kids it's as important as anything that we do. We talk about making sure kids have access to hospitals and urgent care. Absolutely. Having access to nutritious food, whether it's, the micronutrient dense food that we give Roland. That's absolutely life-saving. It's critical. But as important, I dare I say, and I don't mean to be controversial, giving the children the ability to play in those safe spaces where everything around them is chaotic and is falling apart and is going to forever change their lives, there's nothing that can replace that. And there's nothing as important as that. So that's what I'll say to that, Roland.
No, thank you for sharing that. Also very personal story, I feel. Trevor, what can be done to expand the access to play in safe spaces in emergencies? What do you feel the biggest limiting factors are currently?
So I think would be, and what we try to tell all stakeholders, whether it's governments or local communities, the people who allocate resources to us, is just really recognize the importance of these safe spaces. Recently, I was in Papua New Guinea. There was a fairly significant landslide there, and it was pretty amazing that when UNICEF and partners rocked up there and we established this child-friendly space, because before that, the immediate aftermath, because children had lost all their housing, we rocked up there. We set up this really awesome tent. We had our kits there, and it was magic. It was just magic to see these kids go from having that solemn look on their face to, when they were in that space, they just lit up. I mean, they were just in overdrive, hanging out with each other, playing. And it was like, not to downplay what happened, but allowing them to see that. And so we need to continually tell everybody, all of our stakeholders, all of our partners, that this is a critical thing to make happen early on. And if we don't think it's life-saving, then we have to really push back on that, because it really is life-saving. And because the kids lose that, then they lose a lot more in the long term as well.
Right. Yeah. Okay. No, thanks for sharing these, in a way, very sort of somber thoughts, but also I feel sharing the hope and the fact that there are solutions and what really play can do to help these children in the recovery from these very difficult experiences. You mentioned some of the nutrition work, which is the area that I work in. There, one project that I really like, it's we call it Project Play, in which we use the cardboard boxes of these specialized foods that we make available for malnourished children that you also mentioned, and on these boxes, like we get to pre-print and pre-cut sort of toys in these corrugated cardboard curtains, and we're able then to repurpose these boxes and kind of in a way take out those toys and use them in the treatment programs for malnutrition. And we're seeing some very promising results, how that's helping these children recover from malnutrition, but also very much promote play and learning for these very, very vulnerable children. So there's definitely hope, and there's definitely things that we can do. Yeah, with that, that really brings us pretty much to the end of today's webinar. As you may have all heard, Faizah, Trevor, and we tried a little bit to reflect on our parenting, our personal experiences, specifically also the role of play, but also on our professional lives a little bit. I think all three of us really want to tell all the policymakers and the businesses out there that parenting is really too big of a job for just parents and caregivers to do it alone. I think all the moms and dads and caretakers need the support to give children the best possible start in life, including through approaches, Faizah, as you mentioned, through these family-friendly policies. So let's work on creating those enabling environments in which we can all be the best parents, the best caretakers. I think let's also specifically pay attention to this online space so that we can keep our children safe while they play and interact online. I guess based on what you were saying, Trevor, I think we should also give out a special shout out to all the dads out there. And let's all find those activities, know that we and our kids love. Let's build on what you were describing. Let's see how we can make them inclusive. We know whether it's engaging in outdoor activities, as you were saying, or football, or cooking, or crafting. Let's make sure we're present. We support our children, and we show them that there are lots and lots of possibilities out there for everybody. But certainly I wouldn't want to close this without coming back to you, the two of you, whether you have any additional thoughts from your own lives and that you want to share with the audience. So Faizah, any concluding thoughts from your side?
Yeah, I think thinking back, I think I find that as parents, it's important for us to engage and actively engage and not just let things stand on its own. So as we engage, make it fun according to what they define as fun, not our definition of fun, right? So as what they consider as fun, so that they can invite you into their space. And that's really the nice, warm feeling that when you get invited into their space, and that's gonna open up different avenues in your relationship as a parent and child. So I say it's actually very interesting for me to discover that play is actually more important just playing. It's just it opens up different things. So that has been an eye opener for me in terms of experience.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Trevor?
I think just if you're a parent, just get out there and play with your kids. Take them outside, go to a park, stroll around, walk around, just look at grass. Whatever you need to do, just get out there and just get that exposure playing with your kids and allow them to have that freedom to play how they want and when they want as well. That stuff will break down barriers. That stuff will make them stronger and more alive just make them so great for what is needed in the world today. And kids, man, they are nothing short of resilient and brilliant, man. They're great. Thanks, Roland.
Oh wow, those are almost words we should end on. But I guess what I think we all say is, and I found this word of play of words which I really liked, that we should really all hit play on play with our children. That we not just do that during this playful parenting month, but really every month of the year. From the UNICEF side, we're certainly committed to continue our work in this very important area. So really a big thanks to you, Trevor and Faizah. Thanks for joining this panel. Big thanks also for all of you out there in the audience. Thank you for tuning in. And I wish you a good rest of the day and a good end of the Playful Parenting Month. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.